Language is so familiar that it can feel invisible. We use it to ask for water, tell stories, argue, comfort, teach, joke, remember, and imagine. But language is not just a pile of words. It is a structured system for making meaning. At its core, it combines vocabulary, the units that carry meaning, with grammar, the rules and patterns that let those units work together. Because of that structure, a person can hear a sentence they have never heard before and still understand it. Language is the main way humans communicate complex ideas, whether through speech, sign, writing, touch, or other forms of encoding. It is both deeply personal and deeply social, something inside our minds, but also something shared by communities. One of the most important things about human language is that it is learned through social convention. The sound of the word tree does not naturally grow branches. The sign, sound, or written shape only works because a community agrees, over time, to connect it with a meaning. Linguists call this process semiosis, the linking of signs with meanings. A sign can be a spoken sound, a hand movement, a written symbol, or a tactile pattern such as Braille. What matters is not the physical form alone, but the shared system behind it. Language depends on people learning the same relationships between signs and meanings, then using them in recognizable ways. Human language is often spoken, but it is not limited to sound. Natural languages can be spoken, signed, or both, and any language can be represented through secondary media. Writing turns language into visible marks. Braille turns it into touch. Whistled speech can carry language across mountains or forests. Signed languages use the hands, face, and body to create fully expressive linguistic systems. This is why language is sometimes described as modality independent. The human capacity for language is not tied to one channel. Speech is common, but it is not the definition of language. A signed conversation can express grammar, emotion, abstraction, humor, and storytelling just as richly as a spoken one. Every language has internal structure. A phonological system governs how basic symbolic units can be organized. In spoken languages, this often means patterns of sounds. In signed languages, it can involve hand shape, location, movement, orientation, and facial expression. These units combine into morphemes and words, the meaningful building blocks of communication. Then syntax takes over. Syntax is the system that determines how words and morphemes combine into phrases, clauses, and sentences. These rules do not have to be written down to exist. Most native speakers follow complex grammatical patterns effortlessly, often without being able to explain them. Language is rule-governed even when its users are not consciously thinking about rules. Two properties make human language especially powerful: productivity and displacement. Productivity means language can generate an unlimited number of new utterances. You are not restricted to memorized phrases. With a finite vocabulary and grammar, you can create sentences that no one has ever spoken before. Displacement means language can refer to things that are not immediately present. Humans can talk about yesterday, next year, imaginary cities, distant galaxies, moral duties, extinct animals, and possible futures. This ability separates language from simple signals tied only to the immediate environment. It lets societies plan, preserve memory, share warnings, transmit culture, and build ideas far beyond the here and now. The exact number of human languages is surprisingly difficult to count. Estimates usually range from about 5,000 to 7,000, but the number depends on where we draw the line between a language and a dialect. That boundary is not purely scientific. It can involve politics, identity, history, geography, and mutual understanding. Two speech forms may be very similar but treated as separate languages because their communities have distinct national or cultural identities. Others may be quite different but grouped as dialects under one language label. This makes counting languages more complicated than counting objects. Languages live inside social worlds, and social worlds rarely fit neat categories. The scientific study of language is called linguistics. Linguists investigate how languages are structured, how they change, how children acquire them, how the brain processes them, and how meaning works. But language has also fascinated philosophers for thousands of years. Ancient thinkers such as Gorgias and Plato debated how words relate to reality, truth, and thought. Later philosophers offered different explanations for language origins. Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that language grew from emotion, while Immanuel Kant connected it to rational thought. In the 20th century, Ludwig Wittgenstein pushed the idea that many philosophical problems are really problems about how language is used. Language is not only a tool of philosophy, it is one of philosophy's deepest subjects. Modern linguistics was shaped by major figures who changed how scholars understood language. Ferdinand de Saussure emphasized language as a system of signs, where meaning comes not just from individual words, but from their relationships within a larger structure. Noam Chomsky later transformed the field by focusing attention on the human capacity to generate language and the mental rules that make this possible. These approaches differ, but both helped move language study beyond lists of words and grammar corrections. Linguistics asks what kind of system language is, how it is represented in the mind, and why humans are able to use it with such speed, creativity, and subtlety. Where did language come from? There is no single simple answer, but many scholars think it gradually diverged from earlier primate communication systems. A key development may have been the growth of theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have thoughts, intentions, and knowledge different from one's own. Shared intentionality also matters. Humans do not just react to signals, they coordinate attention, goals, and meanings. As early hominins became more socially complex, language may have evolved to support cooperation, teaching, planning, and group life. Some researchers connect this development with changes in brain size and structure, although language did not appear in one single leap. It likely emerged through many overlapping biological and social changes. Language is processed across many areas of the brain, but two regions are especially famous: Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Broca's area is often associated with speech production and grammatical processing, while Wernicke's area is linked to comprehension. These labels are simplifications, because real language processing involves broad networks working together. Listening, speaking, signing, reading, and writing require memory, attention, motor control, hearing or vision, and social understanding. Children acquire language through interaction in early childhood, not by memorizing a dictionary. By around 3 years old, many children can speak fluently in everyday contexts. This early mastery is remarkable because they absorb complex patterns from the language environment around them. Language and culture are inseparable. A language carries habits of expression, social values, humor, politeness norms, oral histories, songs, rituals, and ways of categorizing experience. At the same time, culture shapes how language is used. People use language not only to exchange information, but also to signal belonging. Accent, vocabulary, style, and choice of language can mark group identity, social status, region, age, profession, or community membership. Language can include and exclude. It can comfort, entertain, persuade, flatter, insult, or establish authority. Even casual conversation has social functions. Small talk, jokes, greetings, and storytelling help maintain relationships, almost like social grooming in human form. Languages are not fixed. They evolve across generations. Sounds shift, words change meaning, grammar simplifies in some places and grows more complex in others, and communities borrow from one another through contact. By comparing modern languages, linguists can reconstruct features of older ancestral languages. Languages that descend from a common ancestor form a language family, such as the Indo-European family. Some languages are isolates, meaning no relationship to any other known language has been demonstrated. Others remain unclassified because there is not enough evidence. Language history is like a family tree, but with missing branches, contact between branches, and leaves that vanish over time. One of the most urgent facts about language today is that many languages are endangered. Academic estimates suggest that between 50 and 90% of the languages spoken at the beginning of the 21st century may become extinct by 2100. When a language disappears, the loss is not just a different set of words. It can mean the loss of stories, ecological knowledge, ceremonial practices, poetry, humor, identity, and memory. Language extinction often reflects deeper pressures: colonization, migration, schooling policies, economic inequality, and the dominance of larger languages. Preserving linguistic diversity is not about freezing communities in the past. It is about supporting people's ability to carry their knowledge, identity, and future in their own voices. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.